Guys, welcome. Thank you for coming out. This is always awesome to see just a packed room. Good people coming out to find out more about just the startup scene and what's going on up here. It's been something I've been doing for about 7 years. We started North Bank Innovations. This is me. If you don't know me, I'm Dave Barkos. I say just a little bit twisted. Startup is in my blood. I absolutely love it. It's inspiring to watch people that are building new things, and I've seen so many people that do it and hit so many walls, and it really kind of just the community inspired me to build out North Bank Innovations, and it's now here at the Vic, which is amazing. And we can talk a little bit more about what it is, but it's really here to really help startups succeed. Startup is the hardest thing that you're going to do. What moron starts something with a 90% failure rate, and just need to talk to other people that are crazy enough to do it. And I think that's what's inspiring to me, is people want to change things instead of just sit on the couch and complain about stuff. So it's been near and dear to my heart. Part of what we do is really about co-working, bringing people together. It is about advisory. We've got some really smart people that come together and help people balance through problems, the connections that we make, and really the events, things like this. When you guys come out, this just makes it really, really special. And it really just kind of creates a community that's amazing. When we started this, it was apart from the effort that I've been doing about pulling events together. About last April, we decided we were going to do it, and I pulled together a bunch of people and said, there's something here, and we really need to build a physical incubator. And that's what really kind of kicked off the community. That's what kicked off the effort last year. So this has really been a year, basically, since we started this. And I want to give a big shout out to C3. C3, this is Chris Croto. He's one of our board members. He was at that meeting, and it was a really good group of, if you know the startup community, these were some of the really movers and shakers in the startup community, and we pulled together, and it was Vancouver, sure, whatever, and C3 kind of got it under his skin to say, no, it's really something. And so kind of jumped on and has been coaching and advising and pulling this thing together. Chris Magana is another board member here who just kind of been catalytic to helping make this happen. So I just want to thank them for doing that. Luke, yeah?
I mean, you summed it up, and I've quoted you so many times. You said that there's Seattle and there's Portland, but Vancouver is more big enough to stand on itself. Right? You told me that about a year ago when you invited me out here, and I remember that. I told it to a lot of people.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we saw a community that was starting to move and shake, and people that have been grinding away behind the scenes that some people know and some people don't. And it's been amazing to kind of be behind the curtain of what's been going on in Vancouver. And I won't name names, but I was at a very influential meeting for the city, and they basically said, look, we take a look at the Portland MSA, Portland statistical area, and the only reason that the area is in the black is because of the growth that's been happening in Clark County. It really is true. It really is true. And I have good friends and relationships and business and things that we work with down in Oregon. That's not a matter of what they're doing as much as the fact that we're growing incredibly. And I think it's really the time to lean into it. And so this is kind of evidence of that momentum. The other evidence of that momentum are the people that have been coming on here to help sponsor. So I'm not going to go through each one of these, but each one of these people is starting to see the value of what we're building as North Bank, but also what's happening at the Vic. This place is really, really interesting. It was purchased by New Blueprint Partners 5 years ago, and they bought the entire 180 acres. And they built it around a concept that what was standing here, it's the old HP campus, could be the center of something. And instead of tearing it down and just putting houses up, they have this idea that there's a 20-minute walkable community of mixed-use retail and apartments and a school and a park and everything to just pull people together. And so there's an incredible energy. And when we got together with them, I think the first conversation was, it's two guys from New York, and the first conversation was, innovation's in your name, innovation's in our name, what do we do in this thing? Let's go. So it was kind of a done deal. They've always wanted an incubator, and it was just exciting to see them jump on board. Another critical sponsor, just to let you know what's going on in this world, got a new sponsor, CRDC, Columbia River Economic Development Council, is one of the agencies that is responsible for the growth of the county. And there's a new president that's come in. He's a phenomenal leader. He's built out local organizations, and we've been talking, and we're directly aligned in what we're trying to do, because he's working from the top down in the larger organizations, and we're working from the bottom up. And it really just serves the county really well to kind of have that all come together. So we're really excited to see where that goes. So that's enough about me. Really, one of the things I think is really exciting is to find out about you guys, what you guys are doing. And so if you want to take 8 seconds, it's a big room, so keep it brief and quick, but tell us who you are, what you're building, and if there's something we can do to help. I'll point at people if it doesn't happen. Mercedes, you sat front row.
Oh, okay. I am Mercedes, and I am the inventor, founder, CEO, and all in a startup. It's a woman's footwear that can transform from high heels to flats. And
Yeah, very exciting. Didn't know about this until it came out just a couple of months ago, I think. So, yeah, it's exciting. Anybody else?
No.
Yeah, Mike?
I'm Mike Serchuk. I'm a local startup founder, former Nike leader. Worked out at the Nike campus for a number of years. I've started a small technology startup. We're about 25 people so far, and we're building AI systems for businesses. So I come from business technology systems, building back-end infrastructure. So we're trying to bring like Anthropic and all these AI tools for enterprise, because it's currently not made for enterprise. We've made it for enterprise. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, awesome. Can we call you a startup anymore?
Sure.
Yes. When do you
I was
exit
thinking
the startup?
Yes, that's true. Well, I consider a startup as an experiment, right? When you're still working on the market, when you're still working on your product, when you're still trying to figure that out because you don't have the evidence in the marketplace that it's going to be sustainable, you're still running a bunch of experiments.
We're still doing that.
If you're executing, then you're not as much of a startup. You're kind of transitioning out.
No, we're still a startup.
Yeah. But you are part of a startup. Yes.
My name is Cassie House, and I'm super proud to be a member of the Fullwell team. We are a digital construction staffing organization for residential construction. We started here in Vancouver just 6 years ago. Very proud to be locally grown, but really enjoying a national footprint in construction.
Yeah. One of the under the radar groups that's been here forever. By the way, Josh has to come and do this event. I've told him, and he won't answer me.
Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
I know. Perfect. Anybody else? Guy? I know. Come on. Hey, just three. He's a developer, so I have to tap his shoulders.
We're all crazy here.
Guy, CEO of a company called Kima. We build a cross-border payment protocol based on the blockchain.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of selling the company right now, so not a lot to tell.
There you go. One of the smarter guys and better poker players. Stan?
All right, hey, I've been a trouble. You guys that know me know that I advertise myself as a troublemaker. I'm being in trouble again. Startup number 20, Crane. We are creating a international financialization system for water. Magic water.
Yeah. This is one of the more exciting projects that I think is coming along. It is not. You always find people with big ideas, and Stan's been involved with a lot of big ideas, but this one is probably the biggest. I think.
This is.
Yeah, this is a game changer. So.
Just a portion that we're looking at is an $18 trillion market, and you know, we'll get it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's not making up numbers on a slide and Google searches to figure it out. It's pretty significant. So anyway, again, it's just really exciting to have everybody here in the room. I really appreciate it. We do 3 events regularly every month. One is an open coffee. That's the second Friday of every month. Then we do this, which is Startup Conversations. We do this the third Tuesday. Put that wrong. It's the second Tuesday on this, which is wrong, but the Luma link will give you to the right one. And then Vanteki, which is just which is a happy hour, right? So the thing that we've been able to do since we've been out here, now that we have this space, is we've been starting to be able to do more consistent programming. And so there is an event coming up. I don't have an exact date. It will come out on the Luma calendar. So if you are not subscribed to the Luma calendar, please do that. That's this URL. It's lu.ma/Northbank, you know. But we did a pop-up lab, a makerspace pop-up lab in Longview this last weekend. Had about 30 people, pulled people together. This is 3D printers, this is soldering stations, this is people making breadboards, and so there's a little bit of early STEM education, but then there's, what we're really seeing is that a lot of people are building physical product out of and connecting them into AI. This is phenomenal and basically uses what did he call it? Genetic algorithm to learn and navigate spaces. So it maybe just looked like a little tractor robot, but it's got some amazing technology that's tied to it, running on an Arduino inside of that. And we're starting to pull people together that are making stuff. It's what the legacy of this building is, and we want to see more of that happen. Our space, and I think C3 mentioned it, there's a sign-up spot at the end of this. We want to pull people together to come up and see that space, but we've got about 11,000 square feet. So there's going to be an office area, there's going to be a meeting area, and we are looking at building out an innovation lab where we'll have 3D printers and laser cutters and CNC, desktop CNCs and things like that. So people that are building physical products will be able to prototype and build out there, and then we'll have the innovators, the incubation services where we can help people commoditize those and build businesses around those. So I don't have a date. I will very quickly. But again, subscribe to the Luma calendar, reach out to us, because that's really, really exciting. Really, I'm excited where that's going. That's the commercial. That's the end of it. You came here to see Mike. Mike has been a friend for many, many years and has a legacy going way back into the early days. I went back into the archives.
Oh my God, you wow. Yeah.
I went back. Mike started out in electronic arts, and you had a game development company before that, which is what got you into the learning company. Yeah. And so we're going to hear more about that. If you can't spot him, because it's been a while, this was him over. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike. We got a little tech moment. We're going to switch computers.
I don't really know what I'm talking about today, so I'm kind of making this up. I'll be 100% honest. I meant to come last month and see Jason. I haven't seen him forever. I'm sure he did an awesome job, so I'm sorry you saw Jason first, because I won't be as good. So this is a little bit about, this is all about the startup journey. My startup journey, I think, started relatively early, and so where we end up and how we do things. And so in this case, if we were all sort of have a book title for our biography, this would be mine, which is My Life as a Science Fair. This is literally what set me on this path, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward. So I was born in rural Oklahoma. That is me and my grandparents. That's a cotton field behind. You can see there, southwest Oklahoma on the family farm. This is what I grew up doing. This is all I knew. I went to small rural schools. I had 50 kids in my graduating class. And then go through school, everything else, I discovered science fair. I ended up going to 4 international science and engineering fairs. I won trips all over the world. All of a sudden, Oklahoma became a very, very small place. So then I applied to college, and I had a great strategy. I applied to 2. I applied to MIT and Stanford. MIT turned me down. Stanford took pity on me and let me in, thank goodness. And that sort of was, so my life as a science fair, literally that is what vaulted me, and sort of, there's 2 types of people that grow up in Oklahoma, those that stay and those that leave. And I joined the latter because of that. But my brother's still there and I love him. The other very highly influential piece for me was Ron Popeil. Pocket Fisherman is one of the most brilliant products I've ever seen in my life growing up. And this is, so, you know, growing up in that ethos in the 70s is, this is what you think starting a company is, and making product and being an inventor. And so this is very much in what it is. So I go to Stanford, I apply to jobs, and I get a job at the Learning Company. Learning Company is the first educational software company founded by an ex-nun, Ann Pystrip, who actually lives not far from here now. She got a National Science Foundation grant. Warren Robinette, you may know Warren from Ready Player One, was one of my mentors. He was also a founder of this company. And so I ended up architecting and writing a game with Leslie Grimm, which was called Robot Odyssey. So Robot Odyssey is a little famous. It was in Scientific American twice. I think Steve Jobs called it the best Apple II software written, which was nice for him to say. Yeah, are you familiar with this? Excellent. I've met many engineers. Apple II Plus, yes, absolutely. Apple IIe, actually. I have memory extension cards. We could talk about things. So anyhow, that launched, and then I got a call from Trip Hawkins one day, who was the founder of Electronic Arts. This is the second year they were in business. So I went to write a game with Electronic Arts. That was me when I had, you can't tell that I have more hair because I cut the top of my head off, so that was on purpose. But this is me writing my first major video game by myself with Electronic Arts. It was for the Amiga computer, which was a big thing that came out at the time. There were a bunch of us, which is what Dave showed you. I took a photo of mine that's in a frame, so it's not quite as clean as Dave's. These are all incredible people. Eddie Dombrower, R.J. Michael, I mean, Rick Koenig, just an incredible group of people to be around. Electronic Arts was a unique place to be at the time. We were software artists, so none of us worked for Electronic Arts. It's like writing a book. They give you an advance, you do something, and you make royalties. It took me over 2 years to finish that game. I learned a lot about how to do things and how not to do things. All this as a coder, not really as a business person. That education came later. Stumbled out of that. What happened at the end of the video game phase is you needed larger teams, and it took a longer period of time to make video games. A lot of the fun, quite honestly, went away. All my friends had written video games. Some of them became millionaires just, doing Apple IIe stuff, which was fantastic. So then I stumbled into toy inventing. And so my first big product in toys was the Power Glove. So the Power Glove was 1990, I think, 89, 90. This is its own presentation someday. This was living in a hotel in LA next to Mattel for 5 months, figuring out how to make this damn thing. And it launched, it became sort of an icon. It tried to do a lot of things that are really hard. I have to show one more picture of this. So one of my best friends, Darren, I met him. He was hired out of UCLA to be a tester for the Power Glove. And when it was over, I turned in my badge, and he stayed there for another 17 years at Mattel. But here's Darren playing hockey wearing a Power Glove. So there was a group that came and made a documentary called Power Glove, and they were there. And Darren had to go play a hockey game that day, and I was like, you got to wear the Power Glove. So he did, and they shot a bunch of photos and video of him playing hockey in the Power Glove. Moving on, I spent a good almost 20 years as a toy inventor, working with every major company in the world. We invented technologies and then adapted them, and one of the next big ones was Paper Jams. So Paper Jams was a touch-sensitive toy guitar. Came out in 2010. It was the biggest new product in 2010. I don't know if you remember this. That's the Miz up there. They had WWE commercials, and they were co-promoted. They shipped 7 million guitars that year, toy guitars. It's kind of, I don't know how to describe this. You go to China and you go to the factory and there's multiple buildings that are 5 stories tall, full of people doing nothing but making this guitar. It's kind of a crazy thing to go and experience. We begged them to short ship that product this year. Unfortunately, WowWee was sort of buying the company back, so they shipped a little more product than they had, and so the second year sort of got curtailed, but it was a fantastic product. Then 2013 comes. There are financial sort of, the whole recession and everything else. The toy industry was not very fun. So Darren, the guy with the hockey, playing the hockey, and I were in Hong Kong at the Hong Kong Toy Show in January drinking lychee martinis for a week because we were so depressed about the toy biz. And the challenge was we had never successfully made a good lychee martini. So we came up with this idea while we were there, which became Perfect Drink. And we literally brainstormed there in Hong Kong. What if we had a scale and we had an app and it told us how much to pour and we could always make a good drink. So I called the team back here in Vancouver from Hong Kong. 3 weeks later, we had taken a kitchen scale, hacked it into an iPad. We had a demo app that made 4 drinks. We cold called Brickstone. This is something very important. You need to, before you put a lot of money in something, you want to find out if people will pay money for it and you can sell it. So we flew out to Brickstone, actually Darren did, walked in with a box of booze, made drinks for an hour, and walked out with an order for 50,000 units. And we had no idea how we're going to build it. So it's run. We ship it around Thanksgiving. They sold it all out. It was one of the most successful launches they'd had at that time. The next year we did baking, and then we moved on to, we became Vitamix's software partner, so they white labeled our scale and sold it, and then we also invented the new NutriBullet and licensed that to Capital Brands. So, as you can see, I've done a lot of crazy shit, quite honestly. And the consumer business is a lot of fun, but it's really hard to stay established and get something. Establishing a brand, it's amazing the momentum a brand has once it gets established, right? And so I spent most of my career working with major brands from the outside, which is kind of why you'll see how our company has become what it is, because that's kind of the only way I function. So it was about this time when we launched the Perfect Products that we took our first investment. So we raised money from OAF at the time, Oregon Angel Fund, and there's the first time I'd ever done that. I had to go in, and I had to keep pitching them over and over again until I figured out how to say the unlock words. And we got our first investment. Had no idea what I was doing. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. And this has sort of been the journey, which is this understanding. Nobody tells you, sets you down and say, you've raised money, this is what you need to do. A lot of people have ideas, but they don't really understand, they don't explain the situation to you, which is you have this money, you have a certain amount of time you're going to spend that money, and you need to get to something that is significant to keep you going or to make the company pay for itself. It's understanding that is the pending deadline, which I never quite grokked, I'll be honest with you. So I ended up raising money over the last 10 years, raising money constantly, pushing the company. We'll talk a little bit about that. So the consumer thing never quite worked out. And so we made a very sort of slow pivot into commercial kitchens. I got a call one day from a guy who founded Island Oasis, which does a knife shaving blender. It's an inventor, Mike as well. He's a great guy. He had sold this blender into Dunkin' Donuts. They made all their blended drinks with it, but it was really complicated recipes. They had to mix stuff, and so he'd been experimenting with a scale. Well, we had all these patents with using scales and software. He found our patents, and reached out to partner. And then we ended up working with Taylor at the time, which makes the ice cream and hamburger grills, and then met Well-Built and eventually Middleby, which are the largest equipment manufacturers in this space. And our challenge was, if we were going to try to break into the commercial kitchen space, we had no contacts. So we ended up partnering with these hardware companies, with these equipment manufacturers. They were all starting to make smart equipment. So Well-Built owns a brand called FryMaster. They had made the world's first connected smart fryer. It actually connected the internet, sent stuff out, you could collect data from it, you could push things to it. They sold this system-wide into Taco Bell, but didn't have a software solution for the connected fryer. So we got walked into Yum and Taco Bell, and that became sort of an 8-year partnership where we started to learn this business. And now, we start making some progress, and then COVID happens. Everything shuts down. And we had to sort of, the board told me to shut the company down. We were sort of out of money. We scramble for whatever money the government's having. We sort of tell everybody to go home for a while. And I had to make some big changes. And this is where I'll talk a little bit about partnerships, old and new, that got me through. So the first one is, there are actually 2 of us that run this company, my wife and I. So that's Miriam up there. Someday we'll do a version of this where it's he said, she said. We'll have completely different stories. And that's us at the Wingstop convention, which I'll talk about in a minute. She's not here, but I have to give her full credit. The big change I made during COVID, Dave came and visited me, is we decided to outsource our engineering. And this was a major move for us. And so that's where the next slide comes. We end up partnering with Foremost. You guys are here. I didn't put this, I put this here before you got here. I want you to know that. So, and this has been fantastic for us. I'll never go back. They manage the engineers. It changed our company from being an engineering company to being a product company, which was incredibly important for us. So now we could focus on the product and less about the engineering. And we could focus on what it needed to do and how it worked with customers. And this was huge for us. And this has become an incredibly important part of where we've landed. So I've got to talk about that. So then we've landed here. About 2 years ago, we raised another round of money. It was very hard to raise money post-COVID. But the idea was that would get us to profitability. And I'll talk a little bit, I think, first about how we evolved the product and what we ended up building. So let's talk a little bit about the industry itself. So back of house kitchen software. So in your QSR, your McDonald's, your Taco Bell's, you name it, you've seen these screens and they show the orders. They show the text with the orders on it, right? And honestly, it's technology that really hasn't changed. People used to write the order down on paper, and then they printed it and put it up, and then they took that text and put it on a screen. And so everybody's looking at the same order information and deciding what to do for their job, right? And so this leaves a lot of, it's a very open-ended system. They rely a lot on, this is the arc of kitchen innovation, which isn't much of an arc, honestly. So there's not been a lot of innovation in this space for a very, very long time. Everybody makes kitchen software like this. It all does the same thing. Something else in kitchens then is because you have just these orders on the screen, is you end up with a lot of job aids and training materials stuck all over the walls. This is how you assemble something. This is how you make something. This is what you do before you touch something. You know, all this sort of stuff is there. And I'm going to use a feature here that I've been wanting to use. Yes. So over here,
wow.
Over here is a forecast. This is actually from Taco Bell. And one of the big challenges in a QSR chain is how much food to make and when. The idea is when you get busy, you don't want to slow down and you want to have enough food in production to keep up. And one of the challenges is how much food. So Taco Bell is what you'd call a prep forward concept. So every 4 hours roughly, they don't cook anything in a Taco Bell. It's all reheated, rehydrated, or rethermalized. So you put stuff in a hot water bath and you heat it for 30 minutes. You rehydrate your beans or your rice. you heat up your tortillas and other things like that. This all has to be done in advance. And so how much to make for the next 4 hours is one of the challenges. And so they print these PDFs out, put on the wall, and it says make 4.3 bags of beef. Well, there's no such thing as 4.3 bags of beef. So everybody immediately starts improvising right there. And then once you've run out of food at Taco Bell, you never want to do that again. So you make more food than you need all the time, so you never run out of food. And so this is one of the challenges in this space. So one of the things we end up doing is developing technology that we call predictive cooking. So it takes something like this forecast in, but only as an input, listens to live orders, and makes decisions when you should make more food based on what's happening in the store versus what we expect to happen. And so it can make adjustments. If your business picks up and you weren't expecting it to, it'll just have you cook more. If your business slows down, but you think it'll just stop cooking. So this was kind of key. And so we had to develop software that sort of hid this process and made it easy for people just to follow instructions and trying to honestly take the humans out of the decision loop for these sorts of things. So some of the questions we asked were, oh, I'm sorry, this is a click-through. Okay, yeah. So one thing is these environments are very stressful. In fact, most people quit a QSR job. A lot of the sort of turnover happens in the first 2 months because learning the job and getting into it is really, really stressful, and people tend to walk away. Some of our, for a lot of our customers, it's a 2 to 3 week training process for new employees. It's it's sitting in front of a lot of electronic media, trying to memorize stuff and everything else. I don't know how anybody goes through it. Something else then is, what if we could eliminate these decisions made? What if we could sort of take this over and systemize it? If you think about a large chain of restaurants of, say 2,600 stores or something like that, system-wide, how do you affect change and make this sort of standardized system-wide without a lot of individuals making their own calls, which is the way it happens right now. And so that's one of the goals. And then lastly, what if we could see what everybody's doing in the kitchen? What if we could understand how that kitchen was now operating? Because so far it's been a black box. Now we could understand how to optimize that over time. We could make the kitchen a software platform. We could push changes to that platform, and it would be in front of everybody, and they would change the way they work. This is sort of the goals as we started working through this. So we call this the kitchen of the future, and the future is now. I don't know why I put that there. And obviously, we thought about this very differently than what you saw before. I mean, my background is video games and toys. You can imagine I'm going to make Burger Time or something. We have other people that also worked with me in the toy business and been in video games, and so we've taken a very different point of view to this, and so we've made it all touch, all more like a game, all more intuitive is what we've gone after. And then something else we did that was really, really important is instead of just displaying the order information, we actually ingest the order, we interpret it, we build a digital model of that order. So what are the components? What are the order those things go in? Is there anything special about them? Extras, lights? Is there seasoning, no seasoning, extra crispy, whatever it may be? Where's it going? Is it going for delivery? Is it going through the drive-through? Is it going somewhere else? How does it need to be packaged? All these things are part of this digital model. And then that digital model then, you can think of each piece of software as a presentation layer that takes that digital model and shows a view onto that order for each station. And that's a very different animal. It's also probably the most challenging technically to build because you have to take this order information, and there's no rule on how to configure a POS in one of these stores. My God, people, the way these POS send out orders and how, there's a reason why only humans can interpret these things because they're crazy systems sometimes. And so we've had to develop, we spent a lot of time developing a platform that's highly customizable that can deal with all these variations, and I can go into it, but it's just all technical stuff. But this has been a part of it. And then the other piece of this was you have to go and integrate with all these POS companies, which don't want to integrate with us because we compete with them. We sell kitchen software. So what we did was we made all our stations appear to be a printer, because all POSs can print to a printer. And so we did text parsing initially. So they print the tickets to us, we do text parsing, and this worked beautifully. It still works beautifully. We're deploying. We're at scale with this technology. And now what's happened is our customers go and beat on their POS companies, and they end up integrating with us directly. So this is where sort of the product landed. You can see that it's very different than the traditional software, where things are very visual. We're showing you with images how to put things together, how to place things on a grill, how to build things, how to put things in a bag. You know, the upside of this is that it makes training extremely straightforward. It makes the job very intuitive. If you make a change on how to do something, software shows you how to do that. There's not a lot of retraining happening. This is the prep system we put together for Taco Bell, where we replaced that prep sheet that you saw. We'll keep going. This is the grill software. So one of our customers has big flat grills. All of our hamburger customers cook on grills, obviously. But then they all have rules, what gets cooked where. And if you look at traditional software where you're just looking at the order up here, it'll have counters, because humans cannot look at these orders and figure out the most efficient way to cook them. It just doesn't happen. So they have counters up here, and they'll say, I need, 6 quarter-pound patties and 2 chicken fillets, and they'll batch cook these things. Well, a drive-through is a FIFO. You have to honor the order of that FIFO to keep things moving. So what this does is it takes the orders in, aggregates them, and shows you the most efficient way to cook them. And then down below, for most burgers anyhow, you assemble the hot stack at the grill. So what needs cheese, what needs 2 burgers, what needs grilled onions, right there. So you know as things come off, how to put them together and slide them down. Super, super important. But and then we did the same thing for the fryer. Obviously what to drop, how full to fill the basket with fries. Same thing then at the bottom. Most sides are portioned at the fryer. So what order do we need to portion these? You should not portion all the smalls first if you need a large and a medium next. So this keeps the production line going in the order that it's supposed to. All of these also have predictive cooking. So we're managing what's held up here. It is, for all the items that are being held, this algorithm is running, paying attention to the forecasts and deciding when to cook more. When are we going to run out? How many have sold? Okay, we need to cook this many more. It just pops up on the screen. So nobody's thinking about what they need to cook or anything else. We're just telling them what to cook and asking them to follow the directions and to do what the humans are good, which is making the product and serving the customers. This is the make screen. There's a great story for this. So one of our first customers is Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers out of Wichita, Kansas. I went to grade school in Wichita, Kansas, so it's been fun to go back. They invited us in, that we met at NRA, which is a show in Chicago. They invited us in. We flew into Wichita, and we spent a day in one of their stores. We're the first software company they've ever worked with that flew in and spent a day in one of their stores. And I was with Brian, the COO. We were standing in the store, and we're standing at their make station, which is just showing these orders with text. And at that time, orders from delivery, orders from their app, and orders from the register used different modifiers to build the same thing. So you had to memorize these base recipes. You had to look at this text of changes, this text list of text changes, and you had to do mental calisthenics in your head and build the right thing. And Brian's like, I'll work every station in the store but this one. I will. And I'm like, holy crap, I can't do this. But they had these beautiful job aids with this incredible photography showing how to build all their base recipes up above. And I'm like, Brian, do you have access to that art? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I think we can do better than this. So this was a big bet. So I got them to pay some money up front. We then went off and spent $1.5 million building this and the pack station completely visual, and then we put it into the first store. The first store was in Belleville, Illinois, just outside of St. Louis. It was an NRO. NRO means it's a new store. So these employees have never worked in this store before. First day it opened, they had a line a quarter of a mile for the drive-through. Does crazy business. They did 1,200 orders that day. And normally for a new store, they have 200 to 300 errors. They had like 12. And they were like, oh my gosh. And they'd left the old KDS up in the store just in case. The next day they came in and ripped out all the old KDS. And we were off to the races. And this has transformed their business. You know, they will, now the make station, instead of being the last thing they train that takes multiple days, they start with this because it's so easy and so obvious, right? And this is sort of the power of coming up with a product and sort of rethinking the way things should work. You touch something, I forget my own frickin' presentation. So if you don't know how to build something, you touch it. We build a job aid right there explaining everything about it. You know, Freddy's actually changed how they build one of their base recipes to streamline it. We just changed it in the software and everybody followed it, which is great.
We're going to catch up with stuff at the end.
Oh, okay.
What was that? Oh,
Yeah, I have other questions, so.
you have a question?
No, we're gonna wait till the
Okay. I don't know the rules here, so. You and I both don't know the rules here, I guess. We did a pack station, so this does bagging logic. Bagging logic is incredibly challenging. So what size bags do you have? What are your rules for putting things in? Do meals stay together? What are the condiments? What's your napkin rule? Does it need utensils? All the things that people forget and piss off customers are here, right in front. This takes 5 minutes to train now, and it makes it so easy, and this is a huge pain point in the industry. Drink station, we did this for one of our customers. Drinks, so this is swim lanes. What drinks do I need? It can print labels, all that. You know, what happened then once we started going, we ended up building out custom stations for everything in the QSR, right? This is a drive-through expo. So this is the cars, and it actually shows you the color and type of car, and what bags, what drinks, or anything else you need for that order. You can, if you send a car forward, you can bump it down. So you can park cars if you sent them forward, if you're waiting on something. And if you need to confirm with the customer what's in the bag, you touch the bag, and it shows you everything that's in the order. So you can confirm it right there. When we first put this in the store, before the trainer could start, there were crew members explaining to the trainer how to use it because it was so obvious, right? They'd already started playing with it. And then we did an order status board. You can see these in all Wingstops now, by the way. So this just shows the customer, based on things moving through the kitchen, the status of their order. You don't have delivery coming up asking where the order. It's all right here in front of you. You know when it's ready. And we're doing massive upgrades to this right now. And then finally, we have a new platform we're launching. So we're focused on convenience stores and prep. So this is a prep platform that's we're going after a lot of chicken chains, convenience stores who do fresh food. Biggest challenge for a convenience store is how much food to make and when. They really struggle with this. You know, that roller grill, those chicken wings in 7-Eleven, all those things. When should you make them? When are you going to sell them? They don't know this right now. Everybody's guessing in those stores. So this is a big opportunity for us. And that's it. So we built out this platform. Like I said, we did a raise 2 years ago. We became profitable this year. And a big reason, yes, thank you. A big reason for this, and I'll tell this story now because it's about to go public. A year and a half ago, actually 2 years ago, we went into tests with Wingstop. So Wingstop ran on a paper ticket. Somebody got the paper ticket at what's called the pilot position, and they called out to everybody what to cook. And what happened is, with every system like this, every store developed its own solution on how to run. Because this ran on a paper ticket, Wingstop didn't even know what their actual order times were in stores. So they had to hire people with stopwatches and everything else to figure out what order times. Their typical order times would run from 25 to 90 minutes, depending on how busy they got, right? So we went in with Wingstop. It was an incredible collaboration. We came up with a whole visual language for how to show their items on the screen at the stations, how to cook it, everything else. We developed predictive cooking. They developed an amazing forecasting engine that feeds into us. And we have now cut their order times to under 10 minutes. This was such a big deal for Wingstop that they deployed us to all their stores in 10 months last year. So they deployed 14,000 stations to 2,600 stores in 10 months and trained everybody. which was huge. And this is how we became profitable. But it's a great story. And I have to finish with the Wingstop map, which is one of my favorite things in the whole world. So these are the Wingstops in the country right now. That's my story. I'm done.
Beautiful. Awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I got one thing.
Yes.
You use a lot of jargon, and I love
I
that.
did. I'm sorry.
So the one that I want to say.
QSR, quick service restaurant.
There you go. That's the one I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I do this.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Fast food restaurants.
Yeah. So it's been an amazing journey. Like I said, known you forever, and you used to come out to our happy hours all the time.
I did.
And
then I would go home and try to figure out how to make payroll. Yes.
yeah, well, I think that's why, and I think that was why your bar in your house is kind of.
I thought about putting a picture here, and I decided I shouldn't.
I have one.
I know, I have one too.
Got a very long living room and one of those built-in bookcases. And I think the story you told me was that when you were doing Perfect Drink, you needed all of these different alcohols.
Yeah.
What a perfect excuse to build the most amazing home bar that you could ever imagine.
It's true. Well, you have to measure the specific gravity. So we needed the density of all of the different types of alcohol. So we had to measure them all. So we had to buy them to measure them. And then we had to store them. And then somebody needed to build drinks and taste test them. So, it all goes together.
I don't know if Magana has one, but
It's all tax deductible. And there was a summer where I went through and built 300 drinks, photographed it, and taste tested them. And that was brutal. It was freaking brutal. But we got through it.
now you have a health plan to take care of your liver?
Well, then we did Perfect Bake after that, so I was screwed.
Yeah. Actually, as soon as you had agreed to do this, I posted something pretty quick, and it basically said, fall in love with your customer, not your company. And I think that's something that you've always had. The story that you tell about going out and flying out and sitting on the line and doing it. I've always known that about you, is you're just passionate about the customer problem. You sink yourself into that. And I won't say it's at the expense of the company, but it...
Oh, no, it was always at the expense of the company, for sure. But it's kind of true. Oh, it's 100% true. And I think our customers will tell you that they've never worked with anybody like us. And there's something really interesting. A lot of the questions I got when I was trying to raise money, and I still get them even when I'm not, is, you've built this so you have one solution you can sell to everybody. And the reality here is, for these large enterprise companies, out of box never works, right? So what we do is we capture all the unique pieces of their business in that kitchen. We capture that in the software, so then people do what they want them to do, and it really reflects what they think is core to their business. And so it's very different. We haven't come across a burger chain that applies cheese the same way yet. Every one of them puts cheese on a burger with different rules, for instance, is one example.
Yeah.
There's a famous Cisco Foods.
Yeah.
Spent multiple years putting an SAP installation in, multi-millions of dollars, and ripped it out within 6 months because it didn't adapt to their system.
Right. No, it's true.
So
it's true. And what's fascinating to me is these companies now that are adopting us are paying us to continue to innovate.
Yeah.
Because they've never had a technology partner with them that could solve these problems, right? So now we're working on things like when dine-in comes in and gets busy, it slows down drive-through because you have this competition for order. So how do we prioritize and keep drive-through running? Or fries, one thing the proteins take a certain amount of time and the fries take a lot less. How do you synchronize those automatically so they come out together? There's all these things we're starting to work and unlock for customers now.
So I love that video games have been permeated through your career.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that you were an artist first, because you can see it in the UI, in the products that you're making.
There's
now.
shadows. There are shadows under every one of those things on the screen. I'm just letting you know. I fought hard for that.
There's a whole lot of polygons
Sorry.
going on.
Yes.
My question that didn't come up was, what have you done on the employee side to gamify in store so that they actually are getting the benefit of the efficiency and don't feel like they're just being automated out of existence?
Yeah. Well, we try to make their job just easier so they can focus on doing the job instead of remembering the rules for doing the job, right? So that's the first piece, is just making it easier to learn and to execute. Now, there's a whole sort of gamification thing where now that we have these stations and we can see everything that's happening, it's fascinating because a lot of the industry has been sort of centered around order time. We have to hit these certain order times and speed of service. And what happens is stores and employees start gaming that system. They'll bump early and remember what the order is and finish it and things like that. And so we're trying to move away from that. I would love for that to go away entirely. And we're working on metrics now that can sort of understand the throughput of every station. And so we can show up here and we can show you when you're working ahead, and you can get medals and you can get awesomes and sort of know. And so we have these sort of baselines. What is the real key to making these stores predictable is you need everybody on the line working to a certain level of throughput when you get busy. And so how do you understand that that's happening? How do you give feedback, and how do you give kudos for the people that do great jobs? And how do you know where to spend your time, help somebody dig out, which is the other one.
Macro level, so I'm thinking about your Wingstop idea.
Yeah.
And how they all had their own, and I'm imagining in an organization that size, people got promoted because they invented an efficiency model.
Yeah.
And they became like the new store manager, then they became the regional manager. Like, people do what works for them, and they get rewarded, and so then everybody emulates that, and they try to be like that person.
Well, and that's how they teach other people.
And
to
that's
do
how
it.
they teach other people, and they build their little fiefdoms. And
It's very tribal.
It's very tribal. Any organization, I don't care, pick one.
Yeah.
It's all corporate feudalism.
Very true.
At the base level. So with this, how does the corporate folks look at a chain or a region and say, who are our superstars? I don't know anymore, because I'm not looking at raw throughput. I'm looking at the machine and how much is the machine doing and how much are people doing.
Well, the machine's just telling them. The people are still doing it. So the high performers still perform high, and you can see them. There's no question. What we're trying to do is level. You have peak performers and you have low performers. You have this interesting bell curve, and what we're trying to do is just bring it's such a win. It's such a win just to bring up the low performers, right, and make it easier for the high performers. And how do you increase? If you think about a brand that franchises, the brand makes money for top line growth. So they want to get many people through as possible. So do the franchisees. But the franchisees are really dealing with the employees and the crew members, and how do you keep them? And so keeping them and making it easy to learn and all this is incredibly important to them, because turnover is labor is a major issue in this space.
Labor and waste.
Labor and waste. Well, actually, yeah, labor. We shouldn't talk about it because it's being recorded. But most fast food stores never throw anything away, right? They keep it until they serve it. They have holding times, but I'll be honest, the way you fix this is with how much do you make, and that's really where we focus. Is if you make the right amount of food, everything else takes care of itself.
At the right time.
At the right time. That's really the key. And so we spend a lot of time working and evolving the predictive cooking stuff. We have so many variations of it now for different approaches. For cook to order, even people who cook to order, we have a way to start cooking ahead, even to keep things moving and through. So that's just a focus.
I know there was some questions. There's one over here that
Yeah.
we promised we'd get back to you.
Mike.
Oh,
This
you
is
kind of
past.
answered it. I was curious about the bigger question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Wingstop did a forecasting module in the front end, and I was curious what you're doing with the analytics as far as the back end.
Oh yeah, it's been fantastic. So
And then I had another weird question, because I worked in the malting industry, as I was wondering if have you added like a sanitation module, essentially like the standardization of how you should sanitize each station too.
that's something we're starting to think about now. Not yet, obviously, but that just sort of capturing the other procedures in the kitchen is something we're starting to think about absolutely more and more. Even when to clean the bathrooms, all that stuff, right?
But the analytics, because of it.
And then
You've got this industry to the point where they actually have real data that now they can actually start to use that data.
and so we try not to be at yet another dashboard for a customer who already has more dashboards than they know what to do. So we give them access to all our data and sort of show them how to use it, and they start unwinding, and it's been fantastic. They've been finding analytics that we hadn't thought of and naming them, which has been great. So it's been a bit of a flywheel from that point of view. So once they have access to this and they start digging in, there's all kinds of, like for instance, if you think about the fry station, how do you optimize a fry station? Well, it turns out you've queued something up, it needs to start cooking. It's that delay from
when you could start cooking to when it actually started cooking is really the efficiency of that station. And now being able to pull out that metric and see, because you could walk in. I remember so early on at Wingstop, we'd walk in and a tile would drop there, and the Wingstop guys I'm working with are pulling their hair out because it's there for 5 minutes before somebody starts cooking it. They're like, "What's going on? What's going on?" We talked about alarms and countdowns and everything else, but in the end, they ended up pulling out analytics for that and making it a metric that goes into every store now that they measure the store against. And it made total sense. And so, yeah, it's just stuff like that. How do you unlock each one of these, right? And how do you know when a station's ready to start working? The make station's a perfect example. If you're waiting on proteins to be cooked, but it's in front of you, well, we shouldn't be. That time doesn't count. Once it's cooked and it's ready, now that time starts. And how many are there, and how complex is that order? All this sort of matters into figuring out the metrics for that station. So understanding, we spent a lot of time last year building up data sets and ability to characterize orders. It turns out if you can characterize an order, then you can build rule sets around it, and then you can sort of manage it. And this is one of the big things we had to focus on early.
We have another question? Go ahead.
I was curious about the employee satisfaction and the turnover. Has that been reduced?
It has. It has been reduced. So it's funny. Our system pays for itself just with savings from training. Like that's already we're already paid for ourselves just right there, and everything else is gravy for the brand, which is fantastic. But absolutely, I mean, we go. One of our customers is Whataburger, and they had a big show. They do every few years. They bring all of their store managers into one place, and so we got to, they got to see the system for the first time. Plus, we had all the early stores there, and people were telling their stories, and it's fantastic because and also what's been great is they've really participated. It's their feedback. We spent a lot of time in stores. We have spent calls with store managers, and it's a constant feedback loop as we do this to sort of figure out what are some opportunities to do things. And so that's this flywheel of development and innovation just never stops once we're out there.
One right here in the back.
Would you be so kind as to share your magic words that you found with OAA?
My magic words?
To unlock the funding.
Oh, God, I wish I had to go back like 5 times and John Maroney coached me before he worked for them. He was still independent. And I just had to figure out what was something that sounded like a company they could invest in. They were super intrigued with us. We'd already launched. We'd already gone through Brookstone. We had a business. But I hadn't figured out how to describe the business, right? And I'll be honest with you. It ended up being one of the things I enjoyed, as painful as it was. Raising money and pitching the company to investors turned out to be incredibly useful because you get to sort of pitch, but then you get to hear how they interpret your business. And that feedback loop was incredibly helpful. If nothing else, just honing how I talk about the business, but then sort of seeing the business the way they saw it was also incredibly helpful, right?
When you raise money,
yeah.
Did you know what the proceeds were for, or did somebody tell you should raise money?
Oh no, I raised money to stay alive.
Yeah, okay.
So it was literally, this became, how long could we tread? These are huge enterprise customers. You don't win them overnight. Some of these customers, we've been working with them for 4 years and they're about to deploy. So it was, could we keep the company in place, funded long enough to get one of these wins? And then that sort of started the flywheel, right? And now we have lots of companies coming on.
Which is the right reason. I mean, then it's debt. And that's the way you should think about it, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we get people in here and they get told, I got told I should go raise an angel round, or I should start thinking about an A round. And they have no idea why, or that the number is amorphous and they should just make one up that sounds good. And my story is always the same. Investors don't really care about your business. They don't care what you're making. All they care about is how they're going to get more money back than they gave you, and how fast. So if you have a company and you've got massive enterprise customers and it's pent up and you're literally funding the scale, that's easy to understand. But you have to explain it that way and not go into that I make toys and
it turned out the toy thing I had to get rid of pretty quickly. that had to get weeded out of my pitch. And I'll be honest, the other thing the investors they invest in people. And so they had to see sort of the passion and a path and a competency, and so the other thing you saw sort of my background going through this whole thing. I've never written a resume. I've never had a real job, and I don't know that that's a good thing, and I don't recommend it for anybody. And I didn't graduate college. I left early for that too. But what I did most of my career was pitch things into these large companies. And so I was training for enterprise software sales my entire career. Because every one of these companies has their own personality, everything else. And what I've learned to do is walk into these companies, being a little tiny company with very little money, and convince them and give them, they would have the confidence that I could deliver what they wanted. And that was really, really important. And I'd say that's the one thing I learned over all those years of doing this.
I was going to say, if there's a magic, you mentioned the Brookstone story.
Yeah.
Right? That was it. Going in with a concept of something that you knew the value, and you knew those were the right players.
Well, I spent years pitching crazy toy ideas all over the world, right? So, yeah.
So, something similar to what you were just explaining, like around the sales, like from your EA career to first company you built, like how do you get your first customer, or did you just start building something and then how did you present it to the customer, or you said like at that time you were not big or known?
That's a great question. So what we ended up doing was involving the customer and having them author the solution with us. That's how you get buy-in. So we didn't walk in, we walked in with an idea, and then we listened and we would iterate with them. And this is how you lock in any large customer over time and get buy-in. We did this with Wingstop. I mean, we had foremost engineers queued up, and as we went into stores and got feedback and found issues, in 3 days we'd have a new version that addressed it. And so they had never worked with a company that worked with them this way, that iterated this fast. You go to NCR and it's 9 months, and you don't know what you're going to get. And so that is our superpower in the end, is we are super agile when we engage with one of these customers. And we go in because you don't know what you don't know, and you've got to be very clear. And so we're all solving this together, and that is a drug that they get addicted to, that they want to keep. And so they continue paying us after that to continue innovating and doing this. I just got back from a brainstorming session last week where we're all, we're going to stores, we talk to crew members, we talk to these trainers that train all over the country, we sort of learn this stuff, and then we sit down and we sort of ideate, and I came with a bunch of ideas, they did, and we figure out what we want to build and how we're going to innovate next. And that's how you win these customers and keep them over time.
But I think the thing that I hear consistent, if there's one thread that rolls through the whole thing, it's solutions and art.
Yeah.
So
there's an art to this.
There's a solution. Even if you go all the way back to your original video games, we all had these computers sitting on our desks, and we didn't know what the hell to do with them. We just thought we should probably get one. And one of the things is, well, let's play games because they have graphics, and that's better than my calculator. So people made games, and you made games that were beautiful, or you make toys, and we've got these things that I need to kill time, or I need to keep my kids busy, and then you can't make right drink with your buddy. So let's come up with a solution.
Yeah.
But let's make it beautiful, and let's put an iPad next to it.
Beautiful's key.
Beautiful's key.
Shadows were key. And I will say as well, one of the things that we try to get people to understand is don't come to us with the solution, come to us with the problem, and then let's think about the best way to solve it, which is super important.
And then don't get stuck on it.
Don't get stuck on it.
You're constantly
That's right. You've got to be willing to throw it away.
Don't fall in love with it.
That's right.
Throw it away. If it's not right, be willing to throw it away and do something different.
Yeah, there was a major feature we developed for a Wingstop that they tested for months because I was so nervous about it. We ended up making tweaks, but in the end, it was that's what it takes sometimes.
Yeah. There's an interesting shift, and I'll kind of reiterate your plug for Foremost in a certain way. You said it made a shift. You said it made a shift to turn you into a product company, because I meet a lot of founders that are technical.
Yeah.
And they're stuck in that loop of I can, so I have to.
Yeah.
And you went down that road.
I had engineers for a long time, and I still have some because there's some things we have to do internally. But there's a few things to outsourcing that I'll talk about a bit, which are really important to think about. So when you hire engineers, they sort of have their set of experiences and things they built, and they tend to leverage those moving forward. And a lot of times engineers have an idea about what they want to use to build it, and you sort of get lost into that piece. And managing engineers is its own sort of special thing. I'll be honest. They're special people. I was one my entire life. I can completely I can connect with them. So what you get when you sort of outsource is you get a team that's built a whole bunch of different things for different people, a lot of times at scale. And so they have experiences and tools and things they can leverage that is very hard to hire people to do from that point of view. And so that's been great. Also, you get a bit of flexibility. If you need more people, you can add more people. If it's time to downscale, you can downscale. It's very hard to do when you hire people directly. Yeah. So I'll never go back. This is the only way I'll develop software going forward. And it's a drug, and I'm addicted to it.
Kind of
drawing pictures and then they build it is like the best thing ever.
It's kind of akin to remodeling your home and deciding you're going to be your own general contractor.
Right.
It's like, might not be your skill set, but anyway.
That's right.
Yes, in the back. You got to speak up, Alex. I can't hear too well. Alex.
We'll get back to you in a second.
Yeah, good question. So it looks like every company or relationship is unique. What are the reusable components that you actually use? And also, sounds like you deal with small, large companies. How you prioritize, and how long does it take from buying to the product?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that the flywheel of customer engagement and traction is much faster now because we've built out most of this. When we started, we were building it from scratch, right? And so that's sort of the different pieces here. So as far as customer size, we've experimented with small chains. The challenge with small chains is they haven't actually figured out how to get to scale yet, and they don't have the resources, and it's not a great fit. So we're pretty much staying at 500 stores and above going forward right now. That's a great place for us to play. It's a huge piece of the market. So we're very much focused mostly on large enterprise. And then, it's all reusable, right? Everything we build is reusable, but it's highly configurable is the way to think about this. So it is a common platform, and all of these stations are common and have common code. All the same applications are released everywhere, but they are configured differently. So it's really the art of figuring out how to configure this and architect it in such a way that you could enable features or change them based on how different companies use them.
Are you still partnered with the equipment companies, the well-built?
Oh, yes. And so that's getting pushed a lot. So we're integrating with more equipment all the time now. It turns out that connecting equipment and sending data to the cloud and creating dashboards was never a great model because nobody looks at those things. But connecting it to the production software. So on the fry station, and we're connected to a real fryer, we're telling you what to cook. So you have two options now. You can drop it and start it from the fryer, or you can start it by touching our station, and it's all synchronized. So now we see everything as it cooks. If they cook something that we don't expect, we pop up and they have to tell us what they're cooking. So now all of a sudden, we can see everything that's happening in the store and we're synchronized with it, right? Which is really, really key. So the same with grills. We're working on robots now, which is a fascinating thing all by itself. And then ovens and all kinds of. Oh, yeah. No, I'm out of the hardware game. I'm completely out of the hardware game.
I was gonna joke around about robots because we made this observation pretty early on. You're gonna see a lot of robots on there that are flipping hamburgers and they're doing a bunch of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's the utility of what they do, but there's an interesting nexus coming between this because they don't know the recipe, they don't know all the logistics, they don't know all the logic.
All right, let's talk about automation in the store. Yes.
So,
let's talk about automation in a QSR environment, and I can tell you some of the stories where people have tried. So Will built, Rick Karen, one of my mentors, he died of cancer a few years ago, but my God, what a wonderful man. And he'd been in the restaurant equipment business forever. He was CIO, Chief Innovation Officer for Will Built. Wendy's had a big competition for who could make an automated way to cook a burger. And so all the major, Taylor was making everybody was making one. Flippy was one that was put in. you got to see all these approaches. Well, Willbuild actually came up with this genius idea. They got parchment paper, they used food glue, and stuck the patties to it. So this thing would unfold and pull the patties out. It would go down a vertical slide and cook on both sides automatically, and then come out and come off the paper, and it was done. Now they realized early on that something had to tell the machine when and how many to cook, or it was useless, which is one of the things we started talking to them about. But then here's the challenge. They won, right? They got several $1 million from Wendy's to go make this thing happen. They went to supply chain and said, we need you to supply us with millions of patties glued to this paper. And supply chain said, we need $250 million. And the whole thing died. This is the challenge to a lot of automation in the store. And another one now is you see a lot of fry robots cooking fries. Well, they're really great at cooking full baskets of fries. But to make this thing work, it turns out it's not a robot challenge, it's a portioning challenge. Can you portion 1 portion of fries or 8 portions of fries when you need them? Because cooking a full basket of fries will put you out of business if you do that all the time. And so the industry is all sort of learning now. There are these other challenges they have to solve, and making the robot turns out to be the easy part.
Yes, right here.
How have you learned to price your products?
That's a great question.
It's a constant. So it's interesting because we've never had to drop price. We've had we're considered expensive compared to our competitors, and I would say right now we don't really have any competitors, which is a benefit. So we wanted something that was palatable, that didn't seem completely ridiculous, and knowing that we're going to get the entire kitchen. I mean, in some of these stores, we have 12 stations, and we charge by the station, right? So for a lot of these, we ended up doing set price per store for a set of stuff, and if they add stuff later, we charge extra for that. But what the challenge was, we had to establish value first, and so we gave maybe 20% discount to our early customers, but now we're starting to raise prices, slightly. But I'll be honest, I think we've kind of hit a good spot. So it is one of those things you constantly test. We started going in with higher prices, knowing that we may slide a little bit, but it depends on the chain. It depends on how many stations there are going to be. And some chains are more price sensitive than others. Our real challenge to pricing, I think, is we try not to engage in the pricing conversation early. We want to get in the store, have them test, prove value, and then we have the pricing conversation, which is really key, right? So that's the way we try to do this.
I was going to say that through their own arc, right? Because they all tried to increase food prices.
Well, they have had to, yeah.
And they got really clipped, and so now they're back to their value menus and their 2-for-1s, and
that's right.
They're all implementing deals.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The test thing has always been huge. I mean, I remember that you were coming in, and it was a new test, a new restaurant, a new chain, something else, and so branching like you said, to make it specific and everything else. That test, that was really part of your strategy.
Well, everybody still does that. I mean, nobody buys this off the shelf, right? So every chain we go into, we have to understand how their orders come in from their crazy POSs and set that up. We have to go in and take photography of their food so we can show it all visually. We have to understand their cooking. What we do to go into a store is a much heavier lift than most other companies because we're capturing everything about their food and their food production rules.
Back to your pricing question, do you guys price in that NRE up front
Yes.
for the customization?
Yes, they've always, so we've never lost money on that, which is, well, we probably always do, honestly, but they pay for it, and they pay a decent amount of money for it, which is great. The interesting part is before we were profitable, we were almost profitable just with NRE from our customers for the customization and everything else we were doing for them.
Your early career was part of being a pirate. It really was.
A pirate?
Well, the software that was, video game wasn't a real industry. It was just kind of coming on, and so you were kind of bucking the system.
Well, it was all the personal computer. It all happened with the personal computer, right? Yeah. Right there in Silicon Valley. I mean, so we were all inventing it at the time. We were all making up our rules. Nobody was writing. My first 2 games were in 6502 assembly language, for God's sake. So. we've seen the change, the arc of the industry. I mean, it's a whole new human invented engineering thing, which is computer science, which I think is amazing. And one of the questions I get, they're my favorite replies, I go to these customers and they're like, they have this idea they want to do and they say, can we do that? And my reply is always, it's software, we can do anything, which is true. Yeah. So that's the way we think about it.
Yeah.
How large is Perfect Company?
I think we have 20 employees now, and then we have another 26 at Foremost.
Okay. That's pretty good.
I'm curious if there's any data that supports the correlation of like maybe Wingstop growth to when they started using the Perfect Company. Because I remember going there like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
And like by the time I got my wings, they were cold and I was disappointed.
Go back.
I'll never go
Yeah.
to this place again.
So go back.
Yeah.
It will blow your mind. It will blow your mind how much better it is. Yeah. So I do recommend, if any, because I do. I love listening to earnings calls for Wingstop now. It's one of my favorite things. So one of the things they did is they branded us. We're the Wingstop Smart Kitchen, which is fantastic. And so I think it's very smart. I shouldn't take credit. I'm sorry, I didn't say that at YouTube, but it's very smart, but absolutely. And so, they've had large cap table growth in value. Their stock's gone up just because of this and the improvement in speed and in quality.
Yeah, and I think I remember you came back with the was it the shareholder meeting where they announced it?
Oh, that was crazy. That was actually their franchisee convention.
Okay.
So they didn't tell us that they were going to say anything there. They just invited us, and so we're sitting in the first general assembly at night, and Michael comes out, the CEO. And for an hour and a half, they did nothing but talk about the Wingstop Smart Kitchen. And they had videos and they had everything. And I was like, oh my God. And so we had no idea it was going to be this level of rollout.
Charles, we're going to need more engineers.
It was, so that was a surreal thing for us.
This is the room,
right?
and there's people in the room talking about that, over 90 minutes coming down to under 10 minutes, like the underperforming ones. And people are like, what?
Well, it's a huge unlock for them because a lot of their business is digital, right? Yeah. I mean, they're unique because they're hermit crabs, right? It's a movie reference if anybody picks up on it. Because they don't build their own stores, they go into strip malls, right. And most of their business is digital. People either on their app or ordering for delivery. They're like 60, 70% digital. And so order times are important. And so getting order times down below a certain part got them up into the top 20 for DoorDash and other things. So this has a huge effect on their business, just getting these order times to be predictable and reasonable.
Yeah.
So the part where you told us how you got the data out of the POS systems by essentially pretending to be a printer kind of threw me back to my previous startup. We were doing restaurant analytics, slow restaurants, not quick restaurants. And we had to hack like micros and NCR POS systems to get data out. At one point we decided to go like legit and call micros and call NCR and solve whatever we could work with them. And just like you said, it's like 12 months just to get to someone, get on the program, and we were tiny stuff.
Well, at least they talk to you. They wouldn't even return our calls most of the time. No, we went in, we decided we were going to have the customers have that conversation with their POS providers, which has worked great. I mean, we walked in with the printer thing has worked fantastic. The funny part is everybody believes that a direct integration with the POS vendor is a more reliable approach. Well, the truth is a huge number of their customers only run on printers with printed paper. So it has to be military grade, does not fail. And so it's an incredibly reliable way to integrate and receive orders from a POS. So we started there, and then we've, we're almost done integrating with all the major enterprise POSs at this point.
Hey, so I'm a professor at Clark College, and I'm in the process of kind of creating this thing called the Industry Connection Center, where it's basically like, juniors and seniors getting real work, like setting up internships with local industry. So it's kind of like what you were doing where, you're going to all these different restaurants, they each have their own recipe for a burger. Say for a software company, you each have your own recipe for a UI or whatever, a back-end system. And like I said, I'm in the process of kind of going to these different industries to figure out, hey, first will you take, a kind of a new trained kind of a green, worker. Secondly, is there any like, general processes that I can start, using with my students? Be like, okay, we have a UI project. All right, these, kind of like when I was watching the UI, it was just, my brain was just going. So my question would be, any advice for, approaching those industry partners and, with the thing where you can have potentially free workers, where with the college we're trying to pay the workers to work for the company, so it's kind of win-win.
Yeah. That's a hard one. I'll be honest. Startup is not a good place for kids learning because we don't have the resources to give them any attention. We tried that and we're like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I ignored you for the entire summer.
Unless they want to baptize by fire.
Yeah, well, no, they just get ignored is what happens, or they go out and get coffee. But
They'll come back.
It's a great question because I think it's a great way to learn how to build product, is to understand a need. The challenge when they're young like that is that they haven't built a lot, so they're also learning the other pieces of how do you build product and how do you put it together, as well as trying to build the product. But there is a great thing there if you can find the right environment. Maybe it would be better as a small team of developers and somebody who understood, kind of like what we're doing on a larger, we're on a larger scale. This idea, because I think engineers are not necessarily always great product people. So I think there's a skill mismatch there. So you sort of have implementation and building, and then you have what the product needs to be. And that's something very, very different, and sort of very different skill sets we're thinking about.
And it's like you said, you hire developers, and basically their skill set is based on their projects.
Past experience, yeah.
So I'm just thinking like trying to standardize that, for each approaching these companies to be like, all right, if you're going to be on a UI project, XXX, this is kind of a standardized process, kind of like the
Yeah. It's funny because you call it a project, right? And I think he's making a really big distinction too. It's product, right? And a
really
product, everybody has the team, right? They're team.
When a product's
players,
going to
and they
get
learn
used
their
by
piece
people, somebody has to use it. If you can build great, you can build product that in your head is really great, but if nobody uses it, doesn't matter, right? So it's really that rapid interaction of starting somewhere and iterating with people using the product in real time that is the magic sauce, because you end up in places you just never thought you didn't see coming, and that's the great part about it.
Up front.
Are you guys using any AI systems in the whole pipeline? And my question has three parts. So if you guys are using AI system, and the second part is, are you guys using any external factors to use for estimating the planning the food, such as if there are any games happening around the area, or if there's any match or anything?
Yeah.
Are you guys using any of those? And the third one is, you mentioned that if the cook is prepping the wrong food, it's going to pop up on the screen and probably alarm and say, this is the wrong. So I assume you guys are using VLMs, like visual language models, through the cameras?
No cameras. It's all just, so with the equipment, it's really just basic MQTT. We're getting events from the equipment. They started a cook of this thing. Well, I wasn't expecting this. What are you doing? Is really all it is. So it's just basic event messaging going back and forth. As far as AI, I know that Foremost is leveraging some AI. That's been an accelerator for the engineers. We've been at that for about a year now, and that's working and getting better. It's a thing, it's a thing everybody's kind of figuring out. As far as in the software itself, we have some machine learning modules, bag packing logic, bloody hell, put an AI in there. And so for some of the queuing stuff and whatnot, we're working on a new application now for convenience stores that counts things. So we're training it to count things. It turns out they sell a lot of things that don't have barcodes on them. So you have to go and count to see how many are there to know what you actually sold. So this is a big unlock for them. And then we're starting to take the data layer and flatten it out in preparation, super secret, for some AI stuff that's probably going to be rolling in, so we can do sort of more big data analytics at some point with some AI stuff.
I was just going to tap in. We're coming up against this, and I want to get one last question in, which is, what's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
I'm
growth has been
well. It's just
doing
fun.
really
I'll
well,
be
and-
honest. Everybody talks about getting an exit. I frickin' went through hell for 10 years. I'm not jumping out of this thing now. Like, you know,
Everybody's got a number.
you're gonna pry my cold dead hands off my laptop is what's gonna happen. But
You just haven't heard it yet.
yep.
That's all.
No. It's fun. This is what I love to do. I can't imagine doing anything else. That's why I frickin' stuck with it this long. And so we're gonna. What's next is just more of the same, but every customer is unique, and we keep coming up with really cool, fun stuff to build. So
yeah.
I think I met you right after the Taco Bell experience and before the
Oh, yeah.
Stop one.
Yeah.
And the success is phenomenal. It's so great to see where it's gone. And
you.
you would not have known that this was the company you were building looking at the office.
I had no
you're
idea.
sitting in.
No, I had no idea.
So his office is papered, literally, pun intended, with the guitar games everywhere.
Yep. Toy
and
guitars.
He's like, oh, we're taking over the fast food industry. And he's okay. Well,
This
you
is
got
how
a
he
bar
gets-
scale and a power glove and a bunch of paper guitars.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
This is how he gets investors shaking their head, because it's
Right.
like I've talked to some of the investors, and they're like, Mike has this magic. I don't know how he does it, but man, we love working with him, and
I'm gonna
we're
go
on
back
for the
to
ride.
the old adage, 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Yeah.
You listen more than you speak. You hear what people say.
It's very true.
And then you go actually solve the problem that they told you about, not the one they thought they had.
This is absolutely true. And I will say that I wouldn't recommend taking my path if any of you are starting a company. Don't do it. Every mistake possible I made. There's no question about that. So if anything, my tale should be a cautionary tale, because it was really painful. It paid off, but my God, it was hard.
Yeah. Mike, this is amazing. I've been waiting to do this forever, and thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.